What better way to start the new year, listeners, with a brand new EquiRatings special, because a relatively new direction for the company. It's been going on in the background for a little while now, but time to tell you a little bit more about it. Horse sales. Sam and Dia with me. First of all, Sam, horse sales. Introducers. What is going on?
We have, from the first day we started EquiRatings because of Moneyball, one of the things that inspired us to bring analytics into equestrian sports. It was all about sourcing talent. It's like none of us have a crystal ball as to who's going to be the superstar of the future. So how can we make a calculated decision? How can we actually, like, that human efficiency piece, like the limitations of humans versus like what are machines better at than humans? And one is, looking at a vast amount of potential assets that you could buy and finding what ticks the box. So look, from the first day we start with EquiRatings, horse sales was always something that EquiRatings could one day do. But we obviously had lots of things to do. We're doing risk, high performance, content, working with brands, lots of stuff. But with the build up to Paris 2024, and actually there's been loads of other searches, there's been junior horses for championships and stuff like that. We've already had quite a lot of clients on the go, people basically banging the door down saying, look, guys, help us find this horse. And that's led to us now building a team. We have full-time people dedicated to this, really creating a process to source equine talent that is going to help you achieve your goal. Whether it's 2024 or it's 2026 or it's 2028, we're up and running. We're off.
I have to ask, Sam, because you are a horseman, ultimately. You love the data side of things, but the other half of your life is very much about the horses and everything else. This is marrying the two things together. Where do you have the line and the balance between the data telling you this is a really good horse that would actually suit your goals, and actually that gut feeling and the eye for a horse and the characteristics of a horse, because they're things that aren't captured in data. So where is that balance?
Do you know what? It's like the other half, my other half of EquiRatings, who's on this podcast looking at me now down the screen, is a good example of how he keeps reminding me about the data in my life, like with Talisman. It's like we have very funny conversations that listeners would love to be a fly on the wall of, when he goes, yeah, but sure, your 6-run average is still 35.5. I don't know why you're doing a 32. You could do a 32, but it's unlikely. Data is the truth. That's all it is. It's just the facts, right? Now, there might be a very good reason why you ran out at a fence. Your horse spooked at a cow in a next door field, whatever. Okay. That there are all the time, and I'm exaggerating for effect. But at the end of the day, the data is just facts. So don't think that it's another kind of weird form of science or whatever. It's actually, it's not. It's just giving you facts. And then the big question is that useful or not? Right. So when we're looking for some horses, there's some data that we don't place huge emphasis on because it's not hugely informative. But there's the flip side of that is that there's other data. And this is what has shocked me, Nicole, is that I can look back on a lot of the horses that I currently have. And if they go on to finish in the top 5 in a 5-star, they will be the first horses to ever do so since in the time period that EquiRatings has been. So 15 years. We have 15 years of data to research and analyze. And I already have two that have to overcome that kind of outlier data. Given where their metrics were when they were 7 years of age, they're highly unlikely. And when I say highly unlikely, I mean, no horse has done that yet. So there's certain performance benchmarks, and there'd be a lot of horses that fall into that category. Like, even though Ballamore Class didn't have a perfect 7-year-old campaign, you can look back at his campaign, he gets over the threshold. Like he still, like, his ELO was high enough as a 7-year-old, but 67% of horses aren't. And like, that's the key. Like there's over 1,000 7-year-olds competing internationally every year, and 2/3 of them do not have the metrics that indicate that they're going to go on and be elite performers in the sport. And yet I know for a fact that people buy and people believe in that they have horses in that because they're looking at but they move so well, but look at the presence, look at the power, look at the scope, look at this, that, and the other. But the little imperfections that have come into their life so far that have led to these little bits of bad luck, and he just did this and he just did that, we'll handle all that. It just turns out that when you look at the past 15 years, those little things have probably been the things that have held them back throughout their career as well. Like, they have remained spooky, they have remained suspicious of water, or so that's the balance. Like, it's just informing you. Diarm will no doubt add his because that's what it's been. He's really, and I don't say that he adds that, he keeps reminding me about the value that brings in my own performance.
I don't have anything else is the thing. Like, I don't have the eye for it. I don't have any bias for it. Like, it's literally exact opposite when we talk about fantasy football and you're picking your teams. I'm bringing all of my bias to that, where I'm saying they're no good. You're saying, but their metrics are X or Y. What I would ask you, because I think it's a really good question, Nicole, in terms of that balance between horsemanship, finding a horse, finding the right horse, and then data, and the art and the science. And Sam, definitely one thing that I saw you on a call with somebody kind of have a moment of realization around was when, there was do you remember what I'm talking about straight away?
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. I was talking about this yesterday to somebody else. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but this was where a rider who's been really successful in the sport, and you definitely class this person as kind of old school, but top, like has won loads of medals. But one of their recent really successful horses, they didn't like the feeling when they sat on the horse, but they were like, yeah, but this horse is clearly a good event horse. Like, look at its form and look at its performance. And, I've gotten on an airplane to go and try this horse because of how well this horse has performed as an event horse. I didn't love the feeling, but then what astonished me was the rider says, this horse can clearly perform in this sport. I just need to learn how to ride it. So their initial reaction was, I'm not in love with the feeling. Spoke to the team and said, look, we're going to have to try this horse again tomorrow because I'm not sold. And then instead of coming back the next day, actually it was that evening, this was the thought process change, and said, you know what, this horse can clearly perform. I just need to learn how to ride it. I've got to adapt myself to the horse. Not everyone is going to have that. But again, I think that's the edge. Like, if you haven't watched the film Moneyball, right? Like, I'm a classic example of this. Like, how often, Nicole, have I harped on about, good cross-country horse and cross-country being the heart of eventing? It doesn't matter how much you love it. If you can go and do an 18 dressage and then have a few time penalties and maybe have a fence down, but still finish on a 28, you added 10 penalties to your dressage, but you still finish on 28, you're going to beat the guy who starts on 35, and they may finish on their 35. It doesn't matter how you get, like, play the game the way it's designed. But where you're I'm not, and I know at the heart of your question was, of course, there's a place for intuition, in that where the art is the data gives you access to, like, what we have, over 7,500 horses competing around the world at top level, at international level. It helps you look in there for, what am I looking for, age wise, characteristic wise, like, what's my goal? We'll get into the process of exactly how it works in a second, right? And then, of course, you're going to be like, okay, I have a handful of very suitable candidates here, and of course I'm going to apply the one that I think will suit my riding or my rider the best, the one that maybe, and this is where Dee and I have our fantasy football discussions, maybe the data does flatter that horse a bit, and maybe the excuses and reasons, but it's to a degree. Like, this is where the shades of grey come in, is going, like, of course we can forgive horses' mistakes, because this is the big thing that people will hit EquiRatings with sometimes, is they go, you guys just want to see perfection, you don't forgive mistakes. Horses, everyone makes mistakes, you have to be able to get, and we can think of loads of examples of horses that made mistakes. Falco made mistakes, went on to win a bronze medal at the World Championships, but he's made mistakes since. But I mean, there'll be other horses who made like Ballamore Class made mistakes as a 7-year-old, has gone on to have one of the best 5-star records. He's a hugely consistent horse. Wasn't that consistent as a 7-year-old. You'd need a bit of, like, he wasn't an obvious 7-year-old to buy, and like the person with the eye and stuff like that who trusts in it. What we would be saying is, use your eye to this degree. Yeah, this horse, could be, but actually there's a lot of horses that people are like, they're going to their experience, they're going to their eye, and we would have substantial evidence that says proceed with caution there. Like, very unlikely that horse is going to make that big a turnaround to help you achieve your goal. But the key thing then at the end of this day is none of us have a crystal ball. And so it's about what you're willing. It's about value then. It's about like, how much do I want to pay for this probability of success? And that's a massive part of our process as well.
It adds another level, doesn't it, of, that kind of gut feeling and eye for a horse and confirmation and all of those things that you generally speaking will consider when buying a horse, to actually then look at hard facts that can influence and inform your decision. It doesn't have to make up the whole decision, because ultimately you can still use all of those other things really effectively, but add the two of them together and hopefully it's a winning combination. You just touched upon money there, Sam, and Dee, I'm going to come to you on this, because the price of horses, actually, so many people have had this conversation. What a horse is worth? Are they worth that? Is this the right figure? Like, actually, it is a bit of a minefield when you start talking money and horses. So how does this work, and where does that come into it?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, when we say it's a minefield, the first thing I would say is the minefield is, how do you value a horse? I know from horses that I've been close to and the process that I've been close to, that the same horse could be worth 10 grand, 50 grand, 100 grand, 200 grand, 300 grand, depending on external factors. Mood of the rider on that day, how many people are looking, who's looking, soundness of the horse that particular week, and all that stuff in horses changes all the time. But by the way, they're all external things. They're all external. None of them are actually changing how good or how bad that horse is. And they're all influencing the price, not performance, not the data. They're influencing the price. So what we're trying to get to here, and that's why it's so dangerous, why it's so hard when people say, here, do you want to sell your horse? Yeah, probably. Well, how much do you want? What's the answer? Well, how much have you got? That's the current situation.
The answer, isn't it? That's the answer. What's your budget?
What's your budget? What kind of budget have these people got? And to be honest, where that leads you to is a situation, kind of the current situation, which I would say is one that has always sat a little bit uncomfortable with me. How much do you want for the horse? Well, how much have you got? And that is a huge dictator of the current situation, which is not, I'd say not great for buyers, but also not great for sellers, because what it does is it creates a huge amount of risk and fear and inaction in the market and talk, which actually doesn't ultimately result in a huge amount of horses getting sold for the prices that people talk about. It creates a fear that you're going to make a mistake and miss a huge payday. When the reality is, most like the 80-20 stuff is that, 20% of the time you will like get a huge payday. Maybe that's, but 80% of the time, selling horses is just a really important standard part of keeping the wheels of your own yard and your own life turning. That actually just operating in that normal zone becomes really important.
I think the conflict that comes in as well, though, is that some people will value, because you'll hear of a horse who sold for lots. And then you go, okay, that's the market value. So when we're talking about, so clearly there's what you've described, all those factors, depending on the vendor and depending on the purchaser, it's perception. It is subjective how much value you place on the horse. But again, with information, with transparency, with objectivity comes a benchmark. So you can say, well, look, horses in this range. And again, we got to be comfortable with. People think that the data people are just black and white. We're not. We understand the shades of grey better than anyone else. We understand probability and uncertainty better than anyone else. Data is brilliant when it comes to managing uncertainty. That it's brilliant at that, because it can say, look, horses in this range tend to go for this value. And this is the crux of it, Nicole, is there are definitely some people who never want to sell a horse, part of the family, like, family pet, homebred, whatever it is, or we just love this horse and we don't need to sell the horse.
Or because this is quite a emotive topic, maybe that horse is the horse that they genuinely feel is their top horse, is going to help their dreams come true, is going to go to the Olympics, the championships, badminton, Burley, whatever it may be. And therefore, it's part of their plans and they don't want to sell it, in which case, fine.
Totally fine. Put that into the part of the family category, which is this horse is not for sale under any circumstance. You couldn't buy Jif. I'd say the family thing is different. You couldn't buy Jif off Camilla. You probably couldn't buy George off Sam. And there's
And
other
you probably couldn't
Sam's
buy them
like,
now.
yeah, you could.
Yeah, no, like, and that's the thing. Like 25 retired in the field, like it'd be like you won't buy Sparks' Terrier offer that she's paid.
But that's great and important, and you leave that part of the sport alone. That's not to say that there isn't a phone call that you will get to say, would you ever sell that horse? But it's totally fine to say, I would never sell that horse, not for anything. And I love that. That's what a big part of what makes eventing in particular such a special equestrian sport, that you do have that. But again, I would say that's not 80-20. That's 10%, if even, that are in that zone of never, ever for sale.
There's also a very big line between absolutely never for sale to I'll consider all the offers. It's got to be a pretty special one to make me think I'm going
to. Now we're interested. Now we're just talking about money. So that's all. Yeah. We're into a solvable problem, which is where we're going to come back to when we get to the how much do you want, how much have you got. Once I know that it's not the family pet, then I think you can be like, well, what's the magic number? And the fear that people have over that at the moment is saying the wrong number. But what we're trying to get people in terms of transparency around this is to help people get to a number that they want and they're comfortable with, and give them enough information that they're not making huge mistakes on that, which means that actually you're sort of helping sellers get to understand what the market looks like a little bit better when it comes to value, and helping buyers get to a point where they can say, and we'll come to the process in a moment, but there could be 5 of these horses, or 10 of these horses, or 50 of these horses. They'll all operate. They're all the same couple of years of age. They're all going to be in the same sort of zone of performance. They're all going to be at the same sort of zone of suitability. And Sam will talk about that in a moment in terms of how this thing works. But that's when price becomes important. And it's not that your price is lower or your price is higher. It's that you're constantly saying, well, here's what you could get for X and here's what you could get for Y. And you begin to balance these decisions with all of the factors that come into it: price, performance, soundness.
You're once we've gone beyond and accepted that it's okay that not for sale is absolutely fine. You then have the premium pricing, which is like you said, Nicole, about that person. I've been in this boat of being like, well, hopes and dreams are all wrapped up in this horse, but then life is also a realistic thing for me, and raising kids and all the rest. So it's not that money is no object. So at some point, God, there is a value. Okay. All that happens if it has to be a very big offer in order, we would sell, but it would have to be a very big offer. That status exists. And again, because the sport has kind of has operated, and you hear these stories of horses going for lots of money, like a lot of people want that. Everyone wants that. Everyone wants to get the best price they possibly can for a horse. The thing that's okay with that is that some buyers are happy to pay more for very small additional margins. They might even look at 2 horses that look very similar, that achieve similar things, but they prefer the way that one of them looks and goes and moves and jumps, and they're willing to pay an extra significant sum for that extra thing, because price is less of a problem for in their priority list than actually ticking every box they want. So there will be premium buyers, which means that if you price your horse at a premium rate, there's just not very many. Okay, so if actually building your house and getting your kids through school is actually a priority for you, and you're just playing the game of, well, sure, it would need to be a really big price, your horse probably won't get sold. In an instant. It might, if it ticks all the boxes, but you're kind of waiting for that. You need chance in your side, that right buyer needs to come along. And then actually where a lot of people operate, like loads of riders, me included, lots of riders in Europe and stuff like that, selling horses part of the business. Okay, so then you need turnover, and you're just you're going like, fair price for the horse gets sold, we reinvest. Like, this is how we operate, this is how we do business. And then we have a lot of buyers who are just looking for a fair price. They need it. They want a horse who can do their job that they want to do, and they just don't want to overpay. They're not premium, they're not out to pay extortionate prices for something that, or they'd happily go for option B or C and not option A, which is priced higher. And that's really where we come in on both sides. Like, to be honest, on all the scales. You'll have some people that will use us and just say, look, when a really good value horse comes along, let us know. That's fine too. But we'll take you through the process then if someone signs up.
Before we go through the process, Sam, just to put it into context, that actually there's lots of different parties that EquiRatings can help with, because there are agents for this kind of thing, isn't there, to help with finding a horse that is suitable for your needs. But actually, this can help the agent's process as well.
We currently have clients using us. They're using us for information, and they're using agents for expert opinion. Okay, so the two, they're using both. That's the agents. It's like the scouts, right? The scout, this is not all sports use this, right? So agents are just scouts, and scouts exist in all sports. Again, technology aids humans; it doesn't replace them. In many roles, and maybe replace them in some roles, but in this space, we're used to this. We're used to scouts. It just means that rather than the scouts only having to be on the phone to everyone saying, what have you got? What have you got? What have you got? Send me, and really limited by the access to the information, we cast the net over everything, and then we go and firstly, it's not just what have we got. It's like, what are we even looking for? Like, what attributes do we need? So that's the first part of the process, being like, what should we be looking for to achieve this? Because if you want to win Burghley, and we know it's very different. If you want to win Burghley, it's very different to what it takes to win the Olympics these days.
Do you want to buy a horse? Do you want to buy a horse for Nicole?
Go on, Nicole. Give us a call there.
Nicole, you ring us there, right? Like, let's go to Alphabetti days. Remember those days? You ring us there.
The role play.
Well, don't do an accent or anything, because no one will take us seriously. So,
well, to be fair, my role play, listeners, it would not be strong. Okay. All right, Sam.
Yeah.
I am looking for a horse. It is for a young rider who is very decent jockey.
Cool.
And well produce their own young horses, but actually they've got 1 year left in young riders. It's their last chance to go and win a gold medal. And so we want something that has the potential to be on the individual podium and hopefully part of the team at the Young Rider European Championships.
Okay, this is really good. So we've not rehearsed this, right? So the things I'm picking up on. First, we got immediate goal. So we now, so for the Young Rider European Championships, and again for the primary part of that goal to be successful, to be on the podium, we can then look back again through those 15 championships and see what does it take to win. Where do those horses, and where do the majority of those horses, where are they at 9 months out from at the end of the year before their championship year? What does it take to win? What does it look like in terms of scores and targets and things like that? And then where should they be at? Because there might be you might allow for a little bit of improvement, because a lot of people will be like, okay, well, not quite at the stage of finishing on a score of 28, but could get there. So like, what are the metrics like going into a championship? So that's the first thing. What is achieving that goal actually look like, and where should the horse be at now, and on what metrics? So we'll look at phase influence, because you've said to me young rider, and so they're still going to be at that 3-star long level. There's still a big emphasis on dressage. It is the most influential phase, and then it's show jumping, and then it's cross country, but it's not as big if we were talking juniors, it's much more on dressage. Juniors would be 50% of the influence would come from. So you'd be putting more emphasis, and you'd see that in the horses. When you look at the horses that have been successful, you look at their targets, like they're going to be up in the 95th percentile on dressage, because so many make the time. I mean, at the juniors last year, 80% of starters made the time. So you don't need to buy a speed machine. So it's actually the first place where people go wrong. You'll have people going at the exact same intention as you. I want to win a medal at an underage championship, and they've gone and bought an X 5-star horse that actually doesn't do very good dressage or jump very well. And it's like, hang on, that's not the best thing for your goal. You need to start strong. Okay, might be a great fit for your child. Might be a lovely horse to give them experience. Might get them selected for some, depending on what nation you're from. It'll be different if you're English or Irish or wherever you're from. Might get you selected. But again, if your goal is the individual medal, you got to have the attributes. What I picked up from is when you said is a good rider. We know what we need and what attributes we need. We're going to now whittle over 7,500 horses down to a draft. You're going to have your draft of the top 1% of horses in the world that are most suitable for your goal. Okay, he's going to get you down to 50 horses based on attributes. But we're going to bring in other factors. Like, you're in England. You might not want to go to Australia or America to try a horse because you might not, straight away, being like, on budget wise, I don't really want to put a horse on an airplane. So we'll be, there'll be some just practical geographic things going. We won't look at those horses. But what you said as well about being a good rider, because you might just, out of a preference thing, be like, look, talk to my trainer, and okay, maybe we want them in the draft, but we're going to definitely place emphasis on horses that maybe aren't ridden by, a 6 foot man because who's won loads of championships because my daughter, so we've had those requests before, and you just like, if that's what people genuinely feel and they want to do,
or
that's fine.
My daughter or son, whoever I'm buying this horse for, might be 6'4", and that's going to rule out a good number of those horses as well. Yeah,
exactly. So then you
yourself and Oliver Brown have a 6'4".
Hey, we can dream. For anybody that doesn't know me and Oliver listeners, we are not the tallest people on the planet.
6'4".
So there we go. So now we know that the goal, we have a target in mind. We have a time for it. It's for now, because sometimes we're looking for the LA Olympic horse in 4 years' time, and we're looking for 6 and 7. So the benchmark, the net's wider, but we'll place much more. Like, already we've put a filter in there on age. And stuff like that. So we're finding the most suitable horses, and then that's where our team come in to play. So all our intelligence and the numbers, the metrics that we create, like these ratings like ELO that you hear us talking about all the time, that actually correlate to future performance. That's the key. They actually matter. Metrics that actually matter with regards to future performance. We're using all those in the beginning. Now we've actually got it. Now we've got what's optimal for you and some of your preferences that suit you and suit your daughter. In this case, Nicole, I think you're buying for your daughter. I don't think you made yourself 20 again, although she's hardly looks a day over it. And now then our team go in and they'll contact everyone about these horses and see, look, we got a hard no, not for sale at any price. Have we got a possible? And then plenty. And again, this is why your draft, even starting at 50 horses, like I was saying to Dee, you will this is the top 1%. And then within that 1% group, you're going to have ones that are for sale, are within your budget, you like the look of on videos. Again, we're doing all that. We're getting videos from riders, getting as much information. This is all about, the key here, folks, is you can make an informed decision. That's what people want to do when they're writing that check at the end of the day, whether it's an owner who wants to win, to be part of an Olympic journey with an athlete, because how often and in how many sports can you be part of that Olympic journey, or whether it's a parent wanting to do that, or is someone just deciding they're going to spoil themselves and they want to go to the Lyon for the first time because they like the look of it. Whatever your goal is, you just want to make an informed. You don't want to write the check, hopefully have the dream, hopefully, that terrible word hope that I try to avoid because it's dangerous. You're just informed. You know that you've maximized your chance of success, and you've not completely overpaid. You've not overlooked some really, it's not like you might, that feeling coming out of the shop, or like driving off in your car and driving down the road and suddenly seeing a car that was the same as, if not better than yours, at a much cheaper price advertised for sale on the side of the road, and you're like, oh, what have I just done? So that's what we're trying to do, is just give people that reassurance to make that informed decision. So we'll gather all that information on prices, and you'll make that, some people, price is not the top priority. Chance of success is the top priority. So just because in their draft there might be one horse for 80,000 and one horse for 160,000 doesn't mean that they're not going to not buy the 161, because they'll look at the videos, they'll look at all sorts of other factors, and make that decision. But they'll have a real informed feel for the market and get a lot of assurance from that.
It's a real insight as well into actually what it takes to achieve your goals. So everybody's goals are different, as we kind of touched upon at the start of this show, whether it be a junior young rider or that small percentage of riders who are looking to be on an individual podium at an Olympics or a Badminton Burley. And actually, by looking at the data, you can say, okay, well, you've not won a medal at an Olympic Games on a score more than X for the last however many years. And therefore, that gives you somewhere to start and gives you a really educated, informed decision on the horses that you're looking at. Right, how does it even work? So you want to buy a horse. EquiRatings are obviously an option. Now we've established that. So Sam, what's the process? Where do you start?
Oh, you can get in touch with us. I mean, we've got our contact details in the show notes. We've taken you through that process. I like the point that you make about how much information you get in terms of what it takes to win your goals, and all of the added benefits that you get from being part of this process. But it's a fixed, I think where you're getting at with the question is not just how the process works, but then it's a fixed fee and how we charge.
How do I make this happen?
Yeah,
so
yeah,
obviously
yeah.
I've rung you up, but actually this is open to everybody. And actually, then what does it cost? What's in it for EquiRatings, essentially?
Yeah, you're paying us for our information and the information that we are, and intelligence that we already have and have developed and maintain, obviously, throughout the season as things update and all that kind of stuff. And then also for the information that we go and get for you about all these horses. So it's an upfront fee, whether we're finding you a horse for, a young horse with a much more moderate budget, or we're finding you the next Olympic super. It's still the same amount of work for us if we're finding you an established horse. It's the same intelligence. It's the same amount of work. And actually, what some people will want to do is we do a fixed fee. And it's a 3-month contract, so that we're working with you over that period of time. And of course, we want success. So we sometimes we'll defer up to like 25% of the fee when you bought your horse, and a sale's gone through, because sometimes, through our we've more horses coming in all the time. So we might say to you, look, we've a couple of horses that sit outside your draft, but you might be interested in them, A, because of the value, or B, because of kind of other features that they have. So look, it kind of has that fixed timeline on it, but it has that fixed fee as well. We're not going to take, if you're spending 50 grand, that it's 5 grand. If you're spending $500,000, that it's 50 grand, that's not, the workload is very much for the value that we add and the work that we've got to do. So it's that fixed fee model. But you can stay on it. So some people will be like, look, we always want to be looking for this horse that could be an LA horse. And as you said, sure, there's no 6-year-olds compete. Well, there's very few now that we have our 1-star intro. There are some, but horses are stepping up in grade all the time, monitoring results, and they'll be like, we want to stay on your package. And then look, that's getting into bespoke recurring revenues, recurring fees and stuff like that. People who want to be on the platform all the time.
They're slightly different persona, they're slightly different part of the market. So you've got people, usually riders with a few owners. They're usually people that say, I'm always looking. I always like to know what's going on. So can I stay? Whereas if you're Nicole, if you're buying for your 6'4" daughter, you are much more likely to stay with us for a while to buy the horse. You're less likely, I would say, that you need a monthly update as to what's happening in the market and what we're seeing and who, what you're looking for. So it sort of depends. In that sense, it sort of depends. But we have a pretty good idea as soon as we talk to people which way they'll go. And as Sam says, I mean, the key difference, really, the key bit is we do charge an upfront fee. What you get for that, you actually get a look at the sport, I would say, that you don't get elsewhere. You get access to analysts, to years and years of KPIs, which are, to metrics, to numbers, which help find you the 1%. The 1% of all of these international horses out there. You get to find your 50 most suitable horses. 50. Now, of that 50, as Sam said, some are in the US, some are in Australia. So let's narrow that down again. We get to your 20 most suitable horses. The bit of the business that I'm focused on at the moment is actually that they're not exclusive. They're not our 20 horses. They're on the market. There's other people that can come and buy those, and these are your 20 horses. So sometimes I'm saying to Sam, God, 20 is a lot, because all of a sudden I have a lot of choice. Does that make it harder for someone to make a decision? But to find the value of giving people 20 of the most suitable horses to go and follow a good rider who's 6'4", wants to be on a podium at a young riders, and probably wants that horse to go on and have value, either as resale value or to be able to step up the levels. Even just knowing, and God knows we talk about it enough on this sport, but even knowing, do we want it to be a 4-star short Supremo, or do we want to hold for a couple of years, and bring it to Burley. Like, it really matters which one you're picking. You're probably, by the way, going with, if it's going to win a young rider medal, you're probably going 4-star short first, unless it's a superstar, because you've had to bring that first phase influence in.
You were just saying then about an exclusive market, and it's not an exclusive market, but it's also a much more bespoke market. So you're getting, whereas you go out to buy a horse and it's kind of like, where do you even start? Because it depends what is out there. Some people might have agents, some people might have contacts in different countries and the like, and places they can go that will give them options. But actually, this will give you a list of horses that are on the market. However, they might not be publicly on the market. There might be a few different options in there for you as well, that you wouldn't necessarily have considered. Dee, just quickly, before we wrap this up, in terms of the structure within EquiRatings, this is obviously something that has been in everybody's mind over the last number of years. As Sam said at the start of the show, very much something that was kind of going to happen at some point. But actually, there's been real investment and structure behind the scenes in EquiRatings to be able to make this a reality now.
Yeah, well, we brought Rosie Bainbridge, joined the team in probably September of last year.
She competed in a young rider championship against Michael Young and Piggy, I think. I was looking back at this. I was looking against who had she competed against. She was I think she was top 20 at both of them. She competed.
You've totally just aged her, Sam, by the way.
Oh, have I? Well,
You've put an age on that.
That's fine. I'm allowed to do that. She's family. It's all right.
She is family, but I mean, the key reason that actually she's in is because hugely experienced in this area. She's worked and works in terms of her job pre-EquiRatings was in property, in real estate, buying and selling houses. And you're talking to similar type of people, trying to deal with similar type of transactions, trying to deal with similar amounts of uncertainty. But equally, she knows the equestrian market. She knows the equestrian world. She knows all the nuance that comes with making a call, asking someone about a horse that they might not want to sell, or that they do want to sell but can't find a price for. It's a tricky enough area. Like, it's actually, I don't think something I'd be great at, and probably not you either, Sam. So you needed the right person to do that. What we bring is the other piece. What we bring, Nicole, is actually that Rosie is not just armed with her phone and her black book anymore. She's actually armed with 7,500 horses who have now become 50, and they're the 50 that she's going to talk to and try to see, would they be for sale? Could they be for sale? What kind of price range could we put them in? Help buyers and help sellers. But in particular, in terms of our client would be a buyer, and we would try to find, okay, here's all of this performance information. We found some suitable horses. We found some suitable prices and some videos. Now let's set them up and try and get deals over the line, essentially. So that's, I suppose, usually the investments from a company point of view are financial. So you've obviously invested in the wages, but the flip side, I would say, is that you're also really, the one other thing that we're really limited on is time and effort. And like, I remember when we did our 5 years pod, Nicole, the three of us, in terms of EquiRatings as 5, this was one of them, and the other is betting. And actually, you've got to always be picking and choosing where you're going to spend your focus, where you're going to spend your time. Like, I think 2019, we spent a lot of time on Form video coaching platform. We ultimately didn't go down that route, didn't progress beyond kind of mid-2020. So we know that we'll always be making decisions and prioritizing as to where we spend our time. We pushed a lot into jumping in 2021 and 2, and we began to expand and grow that part of our business. And 2023 and into 2024, I would see our push being very much into sales. But the limitation and the investment is picking an area, staying with it, investing in it, and dedicating ourselves to it. And as you know from our morning meetings every day, sales takes up a lot of time now.
In terms of, obviously, this is a platform for people buying horses. Somebody's listening to this that thinks, well, I'm not in the market to buy a horse at the minute, but actually I've got a horse for sale. Sam, what do they do? What can they do? What should they do?
I would contact us just so that we know, because again, like, the more information that we can give our clients, like, because again, the reason that we've got to hit that middle ground between, we can't give you all the information on all of the tens of thousands of horses that are out there, But obviously, the more information someone might go outside their draft. Again, it depends on what their priority is. If their max priority is maximum chance of success, they will stay stickly to their draft and to the top of their draft, and they won't care about the price so much. They'll stay at the very top. Others are looking towards the bottom of their draft for where's the value within this, or if we come to them with, look, these couple of horses are coming. They're a little bit, and this is what we do time and again, is we say, look, they've missed your draft on this attribute. It's not by much. And when you look at the videos, you could be happy. You could be satisfied that you'll take the chance on that. So that's how it works. It's because again, it's knowing what's forgivable and what's not forgivable. Sometimes horses come from outside the draft and you're like, if your goal really is that medal at the young riders, and this horse has got a 6-run average of 35 in the first phase, your probability is so far against you. You can still buy the horse if you want to, but I've got to give you the objective feedback that says that's a hit to your chance of success that's big. Now, and you might just go, well, do you know what? Having read the mark, having seen it, having had all the access to all this information, and knowing actually that the price of those ones, I might actually just rechange my goal a little bit. This horse has a good chance to get me on the team and might even get me up the levels afterwards. And look, if we don't win a medal, we don't win a medal. Or maybe it'll rain. Maybe it'll rain at the championships and the dressage won't matter so much. As I say, no one has that crystal ball, but it's the informed decision bit. Start with, and again, guys, don't come, if you're looking for a 3-year-old or a 4-year-old horse, we're not your person to buy you got to know what you're good at. We're going to be good when you have that clear performance goal and you're trying to maximize that chance of success. And then it's incredibly good value as well, because what it can cost you to obviously get all that information, and actually just, the cost of going wrong. Sometimes that's the other thing. You could be spending 6 figures on a horse and it might not get you to where you wanted to get to. And actually, if you'd spent, a fraction of that, starting with the EquiRatings team, still using your advisors, still using your people around you, that's fine. But get off to the right foot with the EquiRatings service, I'd say.
Okay, on that note, listeners, all of the details are in the show notes for today's show. So if you have any questions, if you want to find out any more about it, go and check that out, because that will give you everything that you need in order to make any inquiries or to chat to a member of the team, speak to Rosie, anything like that. Sam, it's exciting times for EquiRatings. It's been a bit of a passion project over the last few years. It's really exciting to see it come to fruition. It's not always going to be something that you're shouting from the rooftops in terms of who your clients are, because there is that level of discretion in there as well.
Yeah,
but listeners, I know a few of them, and let me tell you, there'll be plenty of horses, plenty of riders that you will have heard of as well. Look, Dee, Sam, thank you both very much. Listeners, thank you as always for tuning in, whether you're in the market to buy or sell a horse, or whether you have just thoroughly enjoyed a little foray and a little insight into how it is working. We hope you've enjoyed the show. And as I say, all the details that you need are in the show notes. And we'll be back soon with more. So thanks for listening.